Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox, and we got a couple in Waterboy. We got a couple guests in the studio. We got AJ Easy off the Heezy for Cheesy.
Yes, sir.
And,
in the house.
I guess.
Never been called that before. No.
Oh, there's a lot. You haven't been called like AJ yet.
And then we got Bryce, who's so nice. I checked twice, you know. I mean, that's what we got.
Wow.
In the studio.
Wow.
Can you
now,
do that?
Now, nice is an insult to me. So those are fighting words. I'm kind.
Doesn't nice mean opposite of what it used to be?
I know,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Nice comes from a place of weakness.
Yeah, amen.
Nice is something that passive people are. I'm
more
kind
nice.
because I choose to be.
That's why I don't show my teeth when I smile.
And I thought it's because you didn't really have any.
What are you
Sign
talking
of weakness.
The mission of Armored Republic is to honor Christ by equipping free men with tools of liberty necessary to preserve their God-given rights. In the Armored Republic, there's no king but Christ. We are free craftsmen. Body armor is a tool of liberty. We create tools of liberty. Free men must remain ever vigilant against tyranny wherever it appears. God has given us the tools of liberty needed to defend the rights he bestowed upon us. Armed Republic is honored to offer you those tools. Visit them today at AR500, AR the number 500, 500armor.com, AR500armor.com.
You were just down there.
I was. They are doing some crazy
been hanging
things.
with them?
Oh, my goodness.
You've been hanging with
Get
them.
ready. They're about
That's
to
why
take over.
he went on the show on Tuesday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they doing some crazy. I can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Joe Vandal was pretty good, though, in your absence.
Well, I would expect you to say that.
Bryce Eddy is a lot. That's what it says. He's an entrepreneur. He's a podcaster, risk and security. You are a risk and you're a security. I don't even know. And a PSYOP.
Yes, that's right. All the above.
Maybe most importantly, 4th degree Machado black belt.
That's right.
Fourth, and CrossFit L1.
That just means I, joined that cult for a little while.
I'm glad that you called it that.
Yeah, political philosopher, Renaissance man, and an unapologist.
That's right.
It's me.
Yeah, you can turn that off.
Yep, okay.
Anything you don't do?
Spend that much time at home.
Uh-oh.
He's not
I was going
nice.
to add, the one thing he doesn't do is be honest about his Presbyterianism.
What? Oh, yeah.
Wait, is that the gay pastor one or the we don't dance one?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I can't track. I can't track all of those.
I did see Rob McCoy take his tie off on stage one time.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, shots fired.
AJ Hurley, old friend, you've been on the show a few times.
I have been.
Is this your first time in the studio?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I know we've talked to you on Zoom a few times.
Well, he's been here to hang out, too.
Yeah, and then sometimes you just hang. National speaker, activist, leader in the pro-life movement. He worked as the national director of activism at Live Action and Survivors of the Abortion Holocaust before coming to the White Rose with our buddy Seth Gruber.
Yep. Seth's been on the show, too.
And I think we first met you when you were walking out of a hospital in COVID.
Violently escorted out of UCLA Medical Center.
That's right.
For not doing the vax?
Job.
Yeah, okay.
Where'd that end up at?
Has not gone anywhere as yet.
Loss of employment?
Yes. and actually a huge blessing.
Or better employment.
Yeah. That's the thing that catapulted me into pro-life activism, man, full-time in the pro-life movement. So ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, we're so glad to have you guys on the show.
Thank you.
And I have no idea what we're talking about.
So to kind of fill things out a little bit here, White Rose Resistance, Seth Gruber.
Yeah.
We've had him on the show multiple times. AJ, you're the fields coordinator or something like that?
Yeah, national
Assistant
manager of activism.
the manager?
Yep. Well,
You said yes so easily on that.
I'm the outreach director, manager of activism. I guess I'm getting churches involved.
And then Bryce is on Charlie Kirk's board. He's also on White Rose board too.
Got it. There's the connection.
AJ
my best
reports.
buddy, one of
He's
my
one
best
of
buds.
one of his direct reports here, right?
Yeah.
What it is?
Okay.
So
Bryce is my handler.
That's right, exactly. and you listen, that is not an easy job. Let me just tell you.
He's here to make sure that you don't say any of the wrong things. Okay.
We got a secret code word.
Carrots.
Die. So just kind of fill some things out here. This show, there's a lot of connections that we're just friends with all sorts of friends that are friends. Yeah. Bryce was at Rob McCoy's church during COVID stuff. He knows Kurt Cameron, friend of ours.
Yeah.
He's connected me like Grant Horner. I'm trying to think of some other guys that we were talking about that were connected to.
Yeah, it felt like everybody. I mean, this is a small world.
Yeah.
So were you at Rob McCoy's church in the middle of COVID and all that stuff?
I was there before too.
Yeah,
so I started prior to all that stuff going on, and then stayed through all of that, of course. And
we had friends in the Reformed Presbyterian world that landed at McCoy's church during COVID
because fantastic.
It was the open church. It was the church that was preaching against the tyranny.
We took all sorts of homeless in.
And people, I've talked to people since who we met each other. We were like these, orphaned Presbyterians at Rob McCoy's church.
That's hilarious.
And we met each other there, and it's been, anyways, it was a huge blessing. I mean, we're thankful for what God did.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a rare time, and it's funny. I have a little nostalgia for it because we were having some of the best times of our life, kind of standing up and fighting. I mean, I was having parties in my house. I had Dennis Prager's Prager University party at my house because I'm connected to them as well, and they couldn't have a party anywhere else, so I had Dennis Prager lighting up a cigar in my house. And I'm like, well, hey, you got to go outside with that. My wife's but
he just thinks he can smoke anywhere.
Yeah, but we were having, I gave it to him. So, but we were having weddings were being canceled, and we were having them at our place. And we were standing like boldly and bravely and really, truly willing to be arrested, willing to do whatever it takes, and cheering on everybody around the country at the same time, and then, flying, crisscrossing the country like crazy, going to things to support people. I mean, it was a blast. Yeah.
Did you guys have the fines that you had that were stacked up against the church? Did that ever just all go away?
Yeah, it all got dismissed. I mean, we won. We fought the governor and won. I mean, that's really what it was. Now,
why is San Jose still fighting then?
Because San Jose's
the Calvary Chapel in San Jose.
Yeah, they're Board of Supervisors there and the city council and everything are angry, bitter people and are going to take it all the way. There's no settling with them. I think the fines got up to something like $4 million.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and Pastor Rick Brown, who he and I'm part of the church plant that he has here in Star, Idaho.
Okay.
And he's been consulting with them and working with them on that whole process as well. And that's how he came to be our co-senior pastor during the time of. I mean, we went from 400 people to like 2,500 on a Sunday all of a sudden.
Wow.
That exposes some logistical and leadership issues and things like that. So, Rick Brown, that's his bailiwick. And so he came in to help us organize
kind of co-pastor with Rob McCoy.
Yeah. Okay, very good. But now he's in Idaho, southern Idaho, helping plant a church.
We bought Red Tail Ranch off of Beacon Light Road in the 16, and we started. It's a cowboy church right now. We're in tents and whatever buildings we can find on the property right now, and we're growing like crazy already.
Okay, all right.
So he moved. Well, you bought property here in Boise, Star, Idaho in 2020. So you're already waking up or not waking. You're already kind of feeling the California.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the front lines, Beverly Hills, lining up in a mobile field force against Antifa. I mean, we were fighting all kinds of ways, doing all kinds of fun stuff. I was involved in the border battle documentary with Turning Point. I was down on the border, embedded with the sheriff's department. We had some teams down there, so we're doing all kinds of things that we're really, we're frontline people. Yeah. But at the same time, I want to raise my grandkids somewhere else. Yeah. And my daughter's 20, my daughters are 20, 19, and 15. And, I don't want to stay in California. So, the day that Gavin Newsom was here in Idaho saying that it needed to become more like California was the day I decided, okay, we're moving.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And so he was fighting political battles in California, but now you're coming to Idaho. You're going to join the fight here in Idaho, and you have a project called City Gates. City Gates project.
Yeah. So Pastor Rick and I, we recognize that in ancient times, the business of the city was decided by the leaders of the city at the city gates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm forming a coalition that will include, many of the friends that we all know, and business owners and influential people in the state to come together. And let's figure out the things that we can agree on. The left, because they're animated by Satan, man, they're always rowing in the same direction, right? And they are almost unstoppable in the way that they just continue to press forward. We need to be that same way, and we need to do it very strategically. And we need to pick economic issues, and we need to pick things that we can win, and things that are dire, right? Like ranked choice voting and things like that. I mean, there's several NGOs that have come here since like 21 for the purposes of destroying Idaho. And unfortunately, the politicians here can be bought for pretty cheap, and they recognize that. You get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah.
This goes back to, remember, was it Heather Scott? We had her on, and we're like, why are the Democrats focusing on Idaho?
It was the one who was running for lieutenant governor.
And was it Janice McGee?
No.
Whoever this response was, I think it was Heather Scott said that. She's like, well, we're a cheap date.
Yeah.
That's right. She did.
Yeah.
She did say that.
We had, so one thing was exposed. I can't remember. She was running for lieutenant governor. I can't remember her name. She was
Janice McGinn.
No. Janice McGinn was lieutenant governor. I can't remember the other lady's name. She was a pilot. Anyway, I know. I totally forgot. But one of the things she showed me was that it's the money. So you have big pharma and the Democrats outspend Republicans here like 4-1. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's insane how much. And so it's not hard to come and say, well, let's just blanket this place with information. Let's just go ahead and get these people to sign up for what we're offering. So those two together, it's like, it's a nightmare.
For $400, you get what you would be spending anywhere else for $10,000.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Interesting.
Priscilla Giddings.
That's it. Priscilla Giddings.
I sent this to you, Gabe, a couple days ago, or maybe it was this morning. I can't remember. My days.
I'm trying to get him on the show, the executive director of the org.
The Institute of Legislative Analysis. Yeah. They did an analysis of the Idaho legislature. And even though we have technically a majority of Republicans, based on actual voting record, we have majority Democrats. She goes. This institute goes through and pulls out and basically just shows how it's like 37 of our 37 of our House representatives are philosophically Democrats, whereas only 33 are actually philosophically Republicans.
And based on how they're actually voting.
Based on how they're actually voting. They're voting like Democrats, even though we have...
You don't have a Democrat problem, you have a rhino problem.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, but also some of the libertarians, you go that far libertarian, you end up being left. Yeah. And so there's some really interesting dichotomies here that need to be kind of overcome.
What are some of the areas, you were listing some of them, but what are some of the areas you think we can unify around and win?
Well, I think ranked choice voting is the most dangerous of all of the things. So that's kind of one of our top listed
that you
things.
Want to oppose?
Oppose. 100%.
First of all, break down ranked choice voting.
So I'm going to have you guys. I want you guys to have Tyler Boyer.
I've reached out to Tyler already.
To talk in detail about that, and I'm going to have him on my show probably this next week to do the same.
Okay.
But what it allows is for the moderates and the more liberal moderates to end up winning more of the vote because again it's
you can rank your choices. So if your first guy doesn't win, you can have a second, a third, and fourth choice. And then, so if the second guy gets,
it's like you're voting multiple times.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. And so it ends up the way it always shakes out. It ends up being in the favor of more moderates or more left leaning. It's how they got. It's how they ruined Alaska in this last election.
So, what would be the argument for ranked choice voting? What's the
diversity, equity, and inclusion. But that's actually under the guise of that is how they're suggesting that we need to be more fair.
How?
Because you're giving people more options, basically. Yeah. But if your guy doesn't win, the other opposing party does. But if more people vote for one of your guys on your list, that person has a better choice of winning, is how I understand it.
Yeah, so it just ends up trending towards more moderate people.
So is this one of those things, again, where the liberals are using diversity in order to be able to get their hands in everything? It's like, ooh, black folks, we can use them again.
100%.
Okay, that's really messed up.
Yeah, so
it's like the CRT of the voting booths.
Do you know I Love Idaho is part of this?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. I Love Idaho is Brad Little's Tom Little's
so like
group.
In the short term, it sounds like what you'd end up with is actually probably more Republicans elected, but you'd get more squishy Republicans.
Exactly right.
So right now you have kind of this split where if our dude, the real conservative, true blue Republican doesn't have enough votes, the Democrat gets in. Mm-hmm. And so the middle of the road Republicans are like, but that's worse. We'd rather have a milquetoast Republican than a hardcore Democrat.
And then what happens is the next time around they paint that guy as too extreme. Yeah. And then they get the next guy and so it just like softens and neuters you over time.
We really got to figure out how
this happened in
this
Alaska.
works.
So they got ranked choice voting in Alaska, and it's really given them some bad. They've gotten to Democratic legislators because of this.
Right.
We sat down with several legislators, Tammy Nichols, a lot of people from Idaho Senate and the House, and they are just terrified of this. They said that if the ranked choice voting, one of them said, if ranked choice voting gets in, I'm done.
Yeah.
Idaho is done. Yeah. It's over.
So
what's the status of that right now? Is that like, is there an actual like?
They're trying to get it on our November ballot.
They're trying to get it on the ballot.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So So then there's some, economic things I think that would be good for Idaho that needs to be addressed. We talked about several of them last night in regards to just development and builders and creating
Property
opportunity
taxes.
for more affordable housing for the young folks that we want to be moving here. Young conservative
that
families.
That scares me. More affordable housing.
I know, because you're thinking a whole different kind of affordable housing.
Especially someone who came from California.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the situation right now with builders that they don't have the land? We got plenty of land.
Yeah, well, they have to pay property taxes on those things.
I remember Gabe talked about this until they sell it, right?
That's right. Yeah. So there's several things that have to do with tax issues. I think the property tax issue is a great one that Gabe and I both agree on, which is we need to protect homes and property rights, and the way that property tax is, you owe $2,000 on your property tax and you don't pay it, they could take your home, right? Yeah. Not just garnish your wages or take your $2,000.
Would you want to get rid of property taxes altogether?
Well, I would love to, actually, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about
I am.
I think that's the Overton window we need to move.
Listen, I'm we talk about abortion. I'm a abolitionist, but but incrementally at a time.
Okay. Welcome to the club.
So keep going. I want to understand, what do you mean by affordable housing?
So because of what, yes, obviously property taxes, anytime, you have an attractive place for people to go, property taxes are going to rise because people from unattractive places are going to come here. Okay. It's not the fault of California refugees, although, we get our blame. The cows, right? California, Oregon, Washington, right? Yeah. We get the blame, but what's happening is it does start to price the young families out of the market. Yeah. And so what are the triggers and levers that we can pull to make that easier? Well, bring down some of the costs for developers, right? Bring down some of those costs, continue to pay property taxes, until you sell them, and some of those issues. There's ways that we can defer that, create some moratoriums on that, and some advantages for those builders. Things like that need to happen. And then there's probably a whole nother host of little issues and things like that we can make it for builders and.
So what else are you seeing that's inside of Idaho that's like, okay, so we got property taxes, that's way too high. It's lost its whole mind. We got getting builders to come in so we can have better homes. People within the
what I would
economy.
like to do is talk philosophically about what's happening here. Okay. The reason that you guys have guys that aren't standing up against the things that ruined and wrecked California, it's little tiny poison pills, right? Where people go, oh, well, I guess that's not a big deal. There's little things like that we saw that happened in California that over a period of 30 years destroyed us, right? So there's things like that are being introduced, and we don't back the politicians. So there are people that share all of our values, and they're going to stand on principles, and they're stalwarts, right? They're on our team. But then outside of those folks, there's people that just, want to be liked, right? Want the backing of people, want to be invited to the nice parties, want to be friends with folks, want to get their campaigns financed, all that sort of stuff, but don't have maybe the talking points or the wherewithal to withstand, the attacks from the other side. So, in that sense, we have to win those people, one at a time. We have to create a strong enough coalition that they will go along with our demands. This is what the left does, right? So how do we protect them? How do we have their back? How do we get the various disparate GOP party people to, come together on a few things? That's what we did. So in California, in Ventura County, we were very successful in doing this. And Ventura County is about the same size as the Treasure Valley, same population, same even geographic spread. And we got the Board of Supervisors flipped, City Council. We got a number of really solid races done.
Your sheriff was pretty good. The sheriff that you put in.
Yeah. So how do we help those people? How do we provide them with the resources in terms of people knocking on doors, campaign staff, volunteers, how do we do that? Yeah. Right. How do we get them to be more bold because they feel they have the backing too?
One thing that's unbelievably winnable is, so I don't know if you guys have paying attention the last couple of weeks, but Idahoans United for Women and Families is a pro-choice group, pro-abortion group run, and one of their heads of board of directors is a Methodist minister. I use that term loosely.
Of course.
And they are trying to get abortion on the ballot for 2026 in the midterms. They will have 18 months to do so. And I mean, these ballot initiatives, now that Roe has been overturned, is the thing that is unbelievably scary me. I mean, there's 11 states right now that have abortion on the ballot, or they're trying to get it on the ballot for 2024. 4 of which I hear that Arizona has just fallen. So far it's Florida, Maryland, and New York, but Arizona just, to my understanding, just got it also. There's 11 states total, and I mean, this has been the downfall of Ohio. This has been the downfall of Michigan and California, and so many states that have fallen just because now that the federal handcuffs are off, the states are determining now by popular vote who lives and who dies. So that is the number one thing that we need to fight. And I actually think it's a very winnable fight here. And that's why I'm here in Idaho is we are developing a coalition to stop this a ballot initiative that's happening for the 2026.
So people need to understand, like, this ballot initiative, at least I think in Idaho, it embeds it into the Constitution.
Not this one. It's harder for them to do that in Idaho.
Okay.
And the benefit for a state like Idaho is you guys actually, I think your governor can not sign something into law even after it's done. I doubt that they would have.
I don't know if it's a ballot thing. I don't think if it's a ballot thing. I don't think.
I know there is a legislature they can veto it.
Yeah, there's a legislative. There's a couple of more controls on our Idaho ballot initiative process than other states.
It's actually good.
It's actually really interesting that they have that.
But most of those other states are all, like you said,
just like straight,
enshrining abortion in the state constitution. Which would completely render anything you want to do legislatively to protect unborn children completely null and void. It is the most terrifying thing ever.
But this is Idaho.
Yes, but to be honest with you, I mean,
but if you put the exceptions in, you're going to get a lot of Mormons probably to vote for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways of writing it on the ballot. Where
Tammy Nichols is saying there's a lot of Mormons that, I mean, look at the overall Mormon church. They are starting to move left like crazy.
And it's any day now they're going to have a revelation that tells them that they should. But
right. But do we have the language of that initiative already?
No, we do not have it. I was talking to Blaine Kazadi and Titus. I've worked with Titus for years. Titus was at Students for Life. He just came over to Idaho.
Okay,
they're amazing. I just love those guys at Idaho Policy Center. But we sat down with them and we're working together. White Rose has got a chapter here. We just started a chapter in Boise.
Very good.
And we're going to plan on getting, and this is a greater conversation. Maybe we'll get into it. But my hopes and dreams and faith in the GOP obviously is at an all-time low. It's gone.
Welcome to the party.
Pretty much gone.
Pretty much.
And so my heart and my prayer is just to restructure, regroup, and it's all the church. I mean, I say this all the time, but in a very narrow sense right now, I can't expect the GOP, because they haven't been called to be the light of the world. The church has been called to be the light of the world, and the city set on a hill. So that's where we got to start. I'm preaching the choir here. Right?
Amen.
But we need to really attempt to build coalitions with pastors and the church to rise up, be the salt and light.
Our politicians are a reflection of where we are
100%
as a church. And it's it's like the bar is like, who wants to run for office? I mean, it's a really rare, it's people who don't want running for office, who want to run for office. And then finally, when somebody's worked up enough, we're like, okay, fine, I'll run for office. But there's so many steps in the process. And then the people that are left over, they've been feeding on fumes at best in a lot of evangelical churches, crumbs,
right?
Not being taught Genesis to Revelation, not being taught the whole Bible and how the whole Bible applies to all of life.
But it's just terrifying right now that we are actually giving evil, demonic group of people that are under the judgment of God, totally hardened by Romans 1 type of the literal decision as to who lives and who dies.
Yeah.
You know, Constitution not written for moral religious people. It is written for moral religious people,
right.
holy and common for any other. So
Right.
they understood this that you know 14th Amendment, no state shall deprive any person of life and liberty without due process of law. Yet we are here, and the state is doing just that. It's terrifying, but it goes to show you that everybody listening to this, like the time to stand up and actually fight at the state now more than at any time, perhaps in our lifetime. Definitely that all politics is local. And if you don't know who your legislators are, if you're not standing up locally, man, that the fight is at the state level.
So White Rose Resistance, why is it different than any pro-life organization? Why, it's like
men.
Because we have testosterone.
Because we're pro-life and we mean it, maybe?
I see what you great callback.
Because we mean it.
Yes, because we mean it.
Yeah, because it seems like there's like a dime and a dozen pro-life organizations.
We're the fastest growing pro-life organization in the world.
By a great degree.
By a great degree.
Okay.
At this point, I don't know if it's probably already public. We're about $3 million organization at this point, and we're
3 million or 30.
3.
Okay, that's not as good as 30.
We're not even a year old.
We're months old.
Right.
But no, a lot of it
Seth's
is
like, hold my beer.
and we're gonna get there. Yeah, I mean, we have a very important documentary coming out called the 1916 Project. That's going to be a big kind of earth mover for us, right? We are a distinctly masculine organization. So, men have abdicated their responsibility in this area. We're protectors, right?
That's right.
And so it's our job, of course, to protect the unborn children, but also to protect the women whose souls are raped when they have an abortion. And so, we need to be standing in the gap there. And we need to tell the, shrill harpy scolds to sit back who are telling us that men should not be talking about this stuff.
Right.
And so that's part of what we're effectively doing, because that is what we are called.
And we are unapologetically right where you guys are at in terms of legislative
theonomy and
in terms
babies.
I was more talking.
Wait, you're not a theonomist?
I was more talking about the Smash Mouth stuff. Depending on whose definition, we're abolitionists.
Yeah, right.
I do not want to just regulate the issue of abortion and who lives and who dies. I want to criminalize abortion. Yeah. It's going to take a while to get there culturally, obviously. Yeah. I mean, we're under judgment, guys. It's give me a break. But so we'll take any principled victory where we can get it.
Well, we want to end abortion, but we also want to end the judicial system that allowed it.
Well, and not only that,
after we end abortion, there's a whole legal thing that we need to back out of.
Absolutely. Well, and you can't legislate your way out of cultural depravity.
That's right.
And so
watch us.
Look, what we have before us is a generational problem, which means there's a generational solution, and when we don't really even own the churches on this thing, I mean, we don't have the hearts of the churches. Right. We certainly don't have the hearts of the people. So, we got to win people for Christ. We got to get people to loving Jesus again and recognizing that he cares about life.
87% of women who have abortions are unmarried.
Yeah.
And it's not like to think that we are just going to get some equal protection laws in place and that we can, out legislate 50 years of the sexual revolution and the degradation of the family. Yeah. We need to make it our first priority to reverse engineer the sexual revolution, restore the family, because that is the only thing that is going to end abortion in America. We need a revival. Right. So that's why I'm not starting in the state house. I'm starting in the house of the living God.
That's right.
And reforming the church.
And this is why we absolutely want to have a say in what goes on in the bedroom.
That's right. And
we have a word for that.
And legislation has a point. Like, look, I want, there's three areas of government: church, family, and state. We need to use the gospel to take dominion over every one of them. But at the same time, let's not kid ourselves and think that we can just end this so quickly. Like it's going to take time because Man, the
AJ.
Marxists have played the long game, man.
AJ.
Let's be honest.
Once we get that Christian Prince, bro, it's over.
Mike Johnson.
Once we get the Christian Prince,
Maybe
it's
not
game-
Mike
it's-
Johnson.
It's game over.
I was so surprised, man. That guy is on the board of like a principled,
A lot of good ministries.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
They must have something on that dude.
Well, that's probably the case, and we've talked offline about some of those sort of things that
Well, let's
happen
bring it online. What you
within
think
our
they got on
government.
them?
Gay porn.
You're just wondering.
Gay facility.
Was
What
he
to make a
Senate
man not act
staffer at
Christian
one point?
publicly?
No,
Dude, it is crazy though. I mean, how do you go from being on the board of all these I don't want to throw names, but like
You can.
Ray Comfort's organization, like
Yeah.
that, you can't get
He was
more.
on the board of Rays.
You can't get more solid.
yeah, but so when men are not tested, right? You really don't see what comes out of their heart.
Yeah.
You don't, and that's we have had a unique respite for so many years, right? And so we're seeing the result of it. And weak men are the most dangerous men on the planet.
I don't know. I want to talk past this. Real quick.
I thought for the fact that they were smearing him when they first got appointed for his associations with the Ark Encounter and Ken Ham and that kind of stuff. And I
Yeah,
thought
he's all connected.
I was like, oh, I mean, he's not afraid to be I thought maybe he had been tested a little bit.
Yeah, we held our breath a little bit,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
because we don't know. But no, those are friendly positions in in peacetime, right? Oh, I sit on this board, I sit on this board, I sit on that board.
royally when Nancy Pelosi's running cover for you, bro.
Is that
It's bad.
Is
You
that
know
with
you
an
did
EF?
something really bad.
Is that with an EF? Or
Yeah.
So hold on. I don't think this should be just walk past. What is it that you don't like that Mike Johnson has done?
Oh my goodness.
Capitulated for every.
But give me the thing though, because I think a lot of people who are not engaged don't understand.
Well, so first of all, Mike Johnson is the one who was behind the Jeff Durbin's end, like getting
Louisiana.
abortion. They came in Louisiana.
They had an end abortion
Him and
play.
his people stopped his was SB 813, I think it
Yeah,
was.
they were trying-
No, I
They
remember.
literally had all of the votes to end abortion in Louisiana. And Mike Johnson comes in at the 11th hour and flips them all.
Wow.
so he's going behind the.
I saw that actually when we did our show when he first got appointed, and we were like, maybe this guy's going to be okay. They were some of the end abortion guys got in the comments and said,
"Hey,"
and they weren't like screaming at all. They were just like, "Hey, FYI, he's the one that flipped on us. So let's wait and see."
Horrible.
But
Treachery.
Mike Johnson didn't flip on. Mike Johnson was a congressman, not a legislator,
But
but
he
he convinced
influenced-
the legislators.
Yes, he
Yeah, okay, I just making sure.
he's the one that
Yeah.
convinced the legislature
That's right.
to
That's
flip,
right.
though. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, that's one thing.
That's one thing.
Okay, give me another.
Okay, well, let's talk about weakness in general. He's the world's worst negotiator. All he had to do was tell Biden no in regards to this most recent spending bill. He funded Ukraine. He did all kinds of things that he said he would not do.
All this foreign money.
Hadn't done anything for the border.
Oh, he signed the thing with the anti-free speech with Israel.
Oh, the anti-Semitic.
He was the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
For the FISA warrant stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what you were mad about, Gabe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the tiebreaker.
Oh man.
So we got Naomi Wolf and Steve Deace coming on in a couple of weeks to talk about the anti-Semitic bill that Congress passed. That free speech,
there's
anti-free speech,
there's another point of weakness
and
there.
Johnson helped negotiate that through.
Attack on our free speech. I mean, well, look, our Constitution is not in effect here in the United States any longer. You cannot think of a single amendment that has not been under attack.
Restricted.
Oh, I got another one.
Yeah.
They gave the federal government power to spy on
The FISA. That's the FISA.
that
That's the
okay,
FISA.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah, the FISA stuff.
Yeah.
We already talked about
nobody
that, AJ.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was blanking out for a
so
second.
mad. He was like, "Let me
so
tell you
mad.
something
I
else."
got
he
one
didn't do.
more.
The FISA. I was talking to
Not a fan.
I was talking to an attorney, a guy that went for his bar exams. I don't know exactly what year, but he said he'd gone through law school and everything, and then he goes to start his training for taking his bar exams. And he said the guy stands up the first day and says, "Now, everything you learned about the Constitution, just forget it." He says, because in order to pass the bar exam, you have to understand the case law.
Yep.
And you have to understand that the case law has
Has
basically completely inverted almost everything. Like you read the Constitution, he says, that's what it sounds like. He says, yes, but it doesn't mean that anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the way the case law has been interpreted over the last
That's
200
called
years.
bad judges and bad rulers, right?
Look, the Republic is lost. That, and I believe that real violence is coming. We've been in a civil war. It's been sustained. It's a fourth and fifth generation war at this point, but, we're heading for some real trouble. And I think things are going to get kinetic, and the United States of America is not going to look in just a few years like it has.
So then do you
And
think,
that's why he's in Idaho.
yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, and Idaho can be one. Like Idaho can be. Community is what will save us ultimately. When you actually get to real extreme unrest, it is community.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have the whole BLM thing been the spark of all that? I mean, you have people losing their companies, you have people rioting. It didn't seem to be able to create a big enough spark to make that become kinetic.
Well, it did wake a lot of people up.
Right.
You know, I mean, it did create an entirely new kind of paradigm shift in people's minds.
You wake me up out of my sleep and you bring to my house, it's going to become kinetic real quick.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, there was widespread violence. It just wasn't enough to, remember, okay, the people that do need to stand up and eventually fight. I mean, you know, when is that? What does that line look like? Right. Because, you know, we're business owners. We have things going on. You know, we are right now insurgents. We are the red insurgents against a blue government. So what does that look like before, you know, you're losing everything and you're being, you know, thrown in jail, or you are a J6er, right? Being held,
FBI showing up at your house.
Pretrial confinement forever, you know, under some of the worst conditions in one of the worst jails in the country. You know, I mean, we are at war, you know, and again, you know, the generations of war, you know, generation 1, Braveheart, you run across the field, hack each other with swords. Generation 2 is rifling, makes distance possible. You get to lob some projectiles at each other. Generation 3 is like World War II, but bomb the supply lines, you know, bomb the factories, you know, interrupt all of that, you know, some propaganda, that kind of thing. But 4 is lawfare, you know, 4 is attack the enemy's ideals. It's
cancel
decentralized. Culture. There is no clear front. Right? All of those things are happening now. 5th gen, you get into AI and cyber warfare and, you know, all of the things that are coming right now.
Well, I also think, to answer your question a little bit too, Knox, BLM happened in all the liberal cities where they don't have any sort of constitution to fight. So they just capitulated and they destroyed the cities, and then they just repair them and move on.
Coeur d'Alene, you guys came out with rifles.
I was going to say,
we're Second Amendment.
Even some places in Washington State. I mean, you get outside the Seattle corridor.
Yeah, Snohomish.
It's actually pretty conservative. And they came out to like Snohomish, and there was a bunch of guys there with their ARs and standing right next to the sheriff,
the sheriffs
was out there. And the local deputies, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, and cars pulled in and said, never mind, and pulled out. And
that's why we need good sheriffs, by the way.
We've been needing them for a long time. So then the importance of Trump in this conversation to you is where?
We had a debate, a 2.5-hour debate on this topic.
On my show the other day.
Show.
For or against?
The Bryce Eddy show, by the way. Sorry, shameless plug.
Yeah,
I got your back, bro.
No shameless plugs here.
So look, I mean, I'm pro Trump in this election. Okay. I've never been a never Trump, but I did not vote for him first time around because the first time around I was like, how's this guy going to really govern? I was living in California. My vote really didn't matter. You know, so I wanted to have authentic conconversations with my friends and say, you know, he's not my guy. You know, I was more of a Ted Cruz guy, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
That aged like milk.
He's got some moments.
Ted Cruz is Drake and Trump was Kendrick Lamar. If you guys know what I'm talking about, that's a whole nother conversation.
So anyway, I mean, look, Trump right now, I mean, the calculation and the core of the argument that AJ and I had is, you know, Biden means more dead babies. Okay. Trump, even with his softening on some of his stance or appearance to soften, you know, we still have influence in his organization and his administration. We still have a whole bunch of actual evangelicals that do share our values, that are solid, that will be in that administration. We have more chance to actually influence him and get what we need done. And it is not a pendulum swinging moment for us anymore. The pendulum is broken. We are going so far left right now. If they get to be in power again, we are done. And I really, truly believe that. It's not just, oh, well, better luck next time.
But the Republicans will only manage what Democrats push left. Republicans never regain the ground.
I am not a Republican. I mean, I vote with the Republicans, but I cannot stand the Republican Party. TPUSA essentially became the new RNC. I mean, you know, our people's convention that's coming up in Detroit is going to be phenomenal. It's everything that the RNC should do. We're putting people on the ground right now collecting ballots, ballot chasers all over the country. We've hired an additional 300 people just to be doing that in the key states. We are putting a tremendous amount of effort into actually doing what needs to be done and playing the game according to how it needs to be played.
Right.
We're like old-timey boxers, traditional, oh, this is how we're going to do it. And then they kick us in the face because they're MMA guys, and that's the new rule set.
Yeah.
We need to be fighting according to the rules.
So would you go back and say we should have been harvesting like everybody else was?
Well, of course we were in 22. We were from our church, legally. We were collecting ballots. We were doing all kinds of things that we legally were able to do, and we had a great deal of an effect. We have to be too big to rig this time around, right? Because they will fortify, is what they bragged and called it. They're going to fortify the election. So we need to make sure that they can't do that enough.
Well, everybody's saying TPUSA is the new Republican Party.
Yeah.
When you first said it was the new RNC, I was like, wait, did you just throw it under the bus? Because
no, we'd taken it over.
Like you're saying, it's the new center.
We are the center of power in the Republican Party now, and that's why they took out ads against us. I mean, Ronna Romney McDaniel, went after us like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing to see
What
the
was your
attack.
name again?
USA is a $100 billion organization now.
100 million.
100 million, excuse me.
That would be amazing.
I mean, that's like 3 million and 30. I mean, it's actually disappointing when you think about it.
Yeah, always doubles whatever the number is.
So, what do you think is this? What kind of effect is this going to have on the Republican?
Well, I mean, what happens is, when power consolidates, people flock to it. And so again, there are weak men that will come alongside us. There are people that would otherwise be compromised, the uniparty people, the establishment party, the administrative state, they're going to try to destroy forever. They're entrenched in their power. They want to maintain it. Those are the bad guys that we're really fighting. We're fighting against a global oligarchy that wants to centralize power, and we want sovereignty. And that's what this real battle is about: is sovereignty at a world scale, national scale, on down to the family, which that's the smallest form of government, which is why it's been so under attack. That's what transgenderism and everything else is about. Is let's destroy the smallest form of government. We can take everything over, destroy it, and we can recreate it in our own image.
So would you guys be in the new center? Have any of the other politicians said, no, I need to run on the ticket that you guys are bringing? Like, has anybody moved over and said, I'm not Republican Party necessarily anymore?
We are winning converts. I mean, we're evangelists in this. And Anna Paulina Luna, who's, one of our first, like, TPUSA grads all the way through, ran. She's one of the most powerful people in Congress right now. I mean, she's gaining so much traction and support, and she is unflinching.
So you guys are going to have a fight between the Democrats and the Republicans. And at some point, aren't the Republicans going to say, well, Democrats, if you don't want them, you better choose us?
Oh, well,
they're kind of doing that.
That's what Mike Johnson's all about right now.
It's kind of, but Mike Johnson got there because of a bunch of people who are probably identified close with TPUSA.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, he's a Mike Pence style guy. He's those guys that are nice and polite and, want to be liked. And then, they compromise when their hearts get squeezed.
Before him was Eye Patch McCain and everybody else, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, other guys, shill for the military war industrial complex.
All right, let me read this ad, and then we're going to solve all the rest of the world's problems.
Yeah, I think we're close.
Trump's going to win again.
If you're a fan of Cross Politic or the Fight Laugh Feast Network, then surely you know we have a merch store, right?
Ooh.
Rowdy Christian Merch is your one-stop shop for everything Cross Politic merchandise. We've got T-shirts, hoodies, hats, but we've also got specialty items like backpacks, mugs, coffee, even AirPod cases if you're into that. Visit Rowdy Christian Merch at rowdychristian.com and buy that next gift or a little something for yourself. Again, that's rowdychristian.com.
So, this is kind of follow up on my question earlier, is that you look at the state of Republicanism, and whatever the Democrats do, the Republicans don't really undo. I mean, they had a chance to undo Obamacare,
Yeah, because they're losers.
Well, they don't have testosterone.
I think that's a big part of it.
And what does that mean about us, that we're getting led by a bunch of people who don't have testosterone? I don't like that either.
Well, remember, I mean, it's the Republicans that are celebrating how many women we have in Congress.
Right.
I mean, it's led by Republicans who are saying, isn't it wonderful that we don't have men to lead us and protect us?
This kind of, and if you look, we've talked about this on the show before, but if you look at the state of America and particularly cities, name one city that the Republicans have taken from the Democrats in the last 20 years? Name one state that the Republicans have taken from the Democrats in the last 20 years. I can name multiple states, multiple cities where it's been flipped, where the Democrats are taking
like
the
Texas.
city, like Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, Denver, Colorado.
And there's more to come.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so the Republicans are just, I'm in, we were talking about this last night, but I'm in this debate with some rhinos here in the state. They're influential and they have a lot of money and they're nervous about the new Republican Guard in town.
Yeah.
New Republican Guard.
They should be nervous about me.
Pretty angsty. I mean, they're kind of angsty. They're tired of the rhinos in the state, and there's issues there. But the rhinos in Idaho are the ones that lost Boise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boise's blue because of them.
Yeah.
And so I just have so much. I just don't believe the Republicans can do it anymore. That's why I'm, to hear
they can't.
Maybe Charlie Kirk's organization is where the muscles are at now. There's no muscles in the Republican Party anymore.
Well, it's encouraging when he's having people like Doug Wilson on, and
he got flack for it, which is great.
And he doesn't care.
Yeah, right. No, but I do think that like we have to. I mean, I think you referenced this earlier, but the founders of our country understood that liberty was something that you had to constantly, vigilantly fight for. And if you were not constantly fighting for
eternal vigilance,
it would slip away. Well, and there's so many references to that in their founding fathers. They said it over and over again, like it's a republic if you can keep it. But you're going to have to fight for this tooth and nail. And I think that what has always, this is a perennial thing. This is what human beings do. But you fight for something, you take it for granted, and then you let it slip away.
Yeah.
And that happens generally over generations. But that's what's happened. And now we're in an uphill battle to retake something. But conservatives have to understand, Christians have to understand that this is a battle. And I think that's why it's so important that men be leading. Men have to lead, and their families have to be leading, and the churches have to be leading in the public square. We're the ones that were made by God for this. It takes wisdom. It takes understanding. It takes kindness. I mean, all these things to do it right. But if men are not leading and willing to actually say, okay, I want a better world for my grandkids, then it's going to be gone.
Knox, I want to throw you this question.
Okay.
Our boy Ricardo Davis on Twitter just now is chiding us for not joining the Constitutional Party. Mm-hmm. At what point do we just abandon the Republican Party, join the Constitutional Party, or start our own TPUSA party, whatever? How do we? What's that calculation?
Why are you asking me? Ask these guys. You know my position on this.
I want to know.
My position is, look.
He's like, I'm already a Constitutional Party. What are you talking about?
I think Randall Terry just got the nomination for.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He's out of California, I think, or something.
No, he's in Tennessee.
I've kind of gone and reduced everything down to a little more simpler position, which is get hot, develop an economy that benefits other people, and do what and figure out who I want to link arms with and continue to
locally
make more businesses as much as possible and be invested in other businesses as much as possible and link arms with people. I think a lot of people found out that it was funny. The people with businesses had a different position on COVID than the most people who didn't have them. The people who had a lot more invested inside of the culture and society had a lot more to say about it. And there are guys who weren't necessarily on our team theologically, who were on our team, as a position.
Culturally. Socially.
And because they were like, wait a second, I have responsibility for 75 people.
That's right.
That I cannot take care of. And these are the only folks who are, I'm with these guys.
Yeah.
This is easy. And I think that there's a ground game that I don't find, I was just thinking about this too. There's a ground game. So for me, it's worship, it's work and family, and it's be a good business owner and buy as many businesses as I possibly can, especially right now that we are, come to the point where a lot of the people who are the boomers are getting out of the industry, and a lot of businesses are opening up where they're $1 to $5 million businesses that you can buy, and those are actually feasible to capture. And so I think in the next 15, 20 years, we play that game. And I think the Republican Party is going to be begging to do with whatever, especially locally, whatever it is you guys are doing, we want to be there because the power is, and you said this earlier, AJ, the power isn't in the politics. Mm-hmm. It's actually where we are at operating our homes and our business and how we're touching the people. That's where the power really is. And we're just not there.
Yep.
In the same way, we're not on social media. We're not engaging. We're not doing business.
So when Bryce and I had this Trump debate on his channel, I encourage you to go listen to it. But my because to your point, Toby, at a certain point, you have to think through wisdom and discernment, because we all believe the same things, I can guarantee you, but how you apply them.
We baptize babies.
I do. By the way, I'm on your team.
Well, then it's
But in terms of the overarching principles, we all believe. So, but the question is, how do you apply these? Like wisdom, discernment is the thing that. So I saw that Dabney was under fire on Twitter yesterday. So I'll
Dabney.
Yeah, I'll throw this into the equation here.
And they pulled Doug into it too.
Of course.
I missed that one.
So this principle, we need to have part of the equation. My favorite quote of his was basically that conservatism conserves nothing, but he says it is the shadow that follows liberals as they march towards perdition.
Yeah.
That is what conservatism is.
Yeah.
And so the question fundamentally for me is, especially when it is to Trump, and also because I'm not sure, depending on where you live in the States, Idaho, your vote for Trump might not mean as much as, so if our vote is only at a vote for the lesser of two evils, instead of also a bargaining chip that we have to preserve the integrity of the party in general. My foremost concern right now is the 2024 election is really almost about abortion in general, right? I mean, it's probably
the only track they can run on,
right? It's the only thing that they have, because they don't have the border, they don't have other social issues.
You're saying it's liberals for liberals.
Yes.
Correct. It's their only kind of line of attack.
Right. I think you're right.
What my foremost concern is that if I let Carrie Lake and Donald Trump get away with this, they are going to be running cover for every other pro-life person in name only who has been hiding behind Roe v. Wade for the last 50 years. That is now going to feel the freedom to come outside of come out of the closet with absolutely zero fear of getting canceled or having any repercussions. And we won't have a pro-life party. We probably don't already, is what he's going to say, because we've already debated this. But in 5 years, we'll have two pro-choice parties. And so at what point do you start saying, okay, and my contention is I might not vote for Trump, and I probably won't, because I'm all for compromise, provided it doesn't actually completely obliterate the foundations upon which all of our republic is built upon.
I hear that. I think
that was heavy,
but I think my thought would be, despite all of the warts, and there are a lot of them.
Yes,
I have never heard a Republican president articulate the atrocity of abortion as clearly as I heard Donald Trump do that when he was running against Hillary.
And then his words kind of reversed it later.
And I know that he's been sloppy and backtracked some and been particularly poor in recent months. But I also think that to your point, though, I actually do agree, and that I didn't vote for Trump the first time. I didn't believe him. But I think the fact that he appointed the judges that he said he was going to appoint and did, and we got the Roe versus Wade reversal counts. Even if he is trying to court the favor of a centrist populist vote now, which I assume that's what he's doing.
It's a political calculation.
Totally.
And he's that's totally his mojo. But I do think I'm compelled at this point by, seeing what you're talking about and saying, that's totally possible. And I could see I voted third party for a few times. The first times I voted third party, and I'd go back third party again. Doug Wilson said years ago, sometimes you look at the ballot and you say, well, God would have had me vote if he had given me options. And so when you look at
actual real candidates,
like these, I can't vote for any of these candidates in good. It's not. It's a big pile of poop. It's a small pile of poop.
Yeah. Which pile?
I'm not going to vote for that. Yeah. And I'll happily vote Constitution Party on that.
Yeah.
I think at this point, though, I'm still relatively convinced by the point that you were making, Bryce, is that the number of people that are going to accompany Trump that will likely share my worldview is far higher. In Biden's administration, there's going to be zero. But I know that there will be evangelical.
There will
Christians.
be some occultists, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I know that there's going to be some evangelical Christians in Trump's entourage. I know that there will be some people that get appointed to positions who are
faithful Christians,
Bible believing Christians who believe
a lot more than you would believe,
right? And who are watching Canon Plus and reading Doug's blog. And I'm thinking, that's something. And I'm voting for that, even though I totally take your point. And I would say as soon as we're there, I mean, if it is two pro-choice people and one guy says, I think we should, whatever, just if there's two pro-choice people, I'm not going to vote for that.
I understand that, especially. I mean, I have over a dozen friends sitting in federal prison right now because they had a peaceful protest outside of the halls of an abortion clinic.
Yep.
Whereas if it was at a grocery store, it would have been a slap on the wrist. Here's a $150 fine. Right. Have a good day.
Or if it had been a BLM protest.
Exactly. Well, they probably would have gotten.
Yeah, they would have been heroes. Welcome.
They would have had full rides to Columbia University. but I mean, they're one of which is a lot of which are facing 11 years in federal prison. So, Trump can end the FACE Act.
Yep.
Trump can, he could do a lot of things.
And he can be petitioned to do those things. He can be influenced to do those things.
Right.
And my concern with AJ is AJ's influential. He got my engineer to kind of come over to his side a little bit. Now I got to fire him. I mean, it's terrible. but AJ's influence is large. So maybe you're in a state where it doesn't really matter, and you can use that as a protest. But I don't think we have a bargaining chip anymore because we do not have a long game right now in this position that we're in. We do need to get Trump in. We do need to influence him. And then we need to win. To answer your question, we need to be the new Republican Party. We are a two-party system. We're not getting away from that. We're not going to run some losertarian candidate and get anywhere. We need to make sure that we influence the people that need to be influenced, and we capture the power. And people will follow strong men. Strong men need to get back in government, not just the wingnuts that run for these positions and the people that you have trouble you recruit and they're like, oh my gosh, this person's crazy. Yeah. They share our values, but they're crazy. Right. We need to run better candidates. We need to do that, and we're doing that work right now.
Mm-hmm. I understand the arguments. Right? I get it. And And I'm not.
I've won, is what he's saying. But he's so committed.
But what you do not want from me as a pro-life leader, as a guy who God has been called, who people look to, I have old ladies giving me their money to end abortion. Yeah. And what you do not want from me is a political hack, some type of shill for Donald Trump that's going to, you need people like Seth Gruber and myself and Jeff Durbin. We are the guys that hold the line and preach the truth of God's word.
Yeah, but you're only a hack if you aren't telling them why you're doing what you're doing.
That's right.
You're only a hack if you're being dishonest about it.
I mean, you think of the prophets in the Old Testament. I mean, like the faithless ones are the ones that just won't tell the truth. I mean, you have this, the story of Ahab and Jehoshaphat. They're about to go out to war, and they call for the prophets, and all the prophets say, "Yeah, go up to war. You're going to win." And it's the one faithful Micaiah who's willing to tell that. And initially, he just sort of plays with them. It's like, "Yeah, go up. You're going to win." And they're like, "Really?" He says, "No, actually, I see Israel scattered and you're dead." And of course that makes everybody mad. But I think you can be in a place where you say, given the lay of the land, I think this is the better choice. And at the same time, don't do this with your eyes closed. Don't do this. Don't turn your brain off. We need prophets. But I think that's what you actually, and I think you can with a good conscience say, what I'm voting for is I'm voting for there to be Micaiahs in the White House.
I just don't want to be like the Israelites. I want to be like Joshua and Caleb that looked over the land of the Canaan and said, "Hey, we can take this." Not their giants are there, and because the bottom line is God can do a revival tomorrow, and look, I'm reading the tea leaves, so to speak, and looking at America and under judgment is totally given over to its lust and desires, but I mean, who knows what God can do? I mean, if He took if there's 10 righteous men, right? What he can do. And I want to preach the gospel, and I want to preach the law of God as I'm doing it, even if there's giants.
To that point, I actually think we are under judgment, clearly.
Yeah.
I also think that there are serious stirrings of massive revival.
I agree. Look at high school boys right now.
We have, it's in many different respects. The fact that there are, so 20 years ago, what was there? Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why Gabe started Cross Politic was he
got us all started.
Right. It's like, but now there's like, what? How many podcasts are there?
Yeah.
Christian, political,
bazillions.
It's pretty crowded.
And everybody's and it's glorious in a sense because it's like a bunch of people are like, hey, let's apply the Bible to politics. Let's Christ is Lord over everything.
And that wasn't happening 20 years ago.
And it's blowing up, which I think is glorious. You've got homeschooling and classical Christian schooling exploding. 2020 only made that faster. It just accelerated it because
generational solution.
Yes.
And that's what we have to get at. People think that we're going to solve this in one election. We're not going to. Generation problems require generational solutions, and that's the path that we're going down. But we can't lose everything, in the process yet.
And what I love about, in reference to that, like in this whole conversation, what I love, because abolitionists are like always telling the pro-lifers they compromise too much, and the pro-lifers are always telling the abolitionists too idealistic, right? But what I love is we have one side that actually can try to accomplish things that can actually feasibly done, and the other side that is holding the line, like Jeff Durbin.
Yeah.
He's preaching the gospel to the state legislator and saying this is murder.
Yeah, he's awesome.
How dare you come against the armies of the living God and tell an image bearer of God that you can kill this child in the womb. And this is murder.
Right.
This is murder. And
even though he's just a regular martial artist and not a Brazilian, I have a lot of respect.
I didn't say that, Jeff. Look at me. I didn't say that, Jeff.
I say fight match. I say we orchestrate Bryce and Jeff to go at it in the ring.
Yeah.
In the ring.
They totally would.
I'll put money in that fight.
This is why.
Can you imagine what we could raise, the amount of money we could raise for this guy. The winner gets the pot to either, right? The White Rose or the.
And you got 3 days to train for it.
I'm ready to go now.
I won't fight him.
This is why Fight Laugh Feast this year is in Fort Worth, Texas, and the theme is Prodigal America, and it's centered on this particular point that we need to call America to repentance. And this repentance, though, is not just revivalism. Revivalism is just sort of like you need to have a spiritual experience and then whatever. Like we don't know what comes after that. We need revival, which begins in the heart. You need to be born again. You need to be made new. But then you need to become a man. You need to become a husband. You need to become a father. You need to become a father in your church. You need to become a father in the city gates. You need to be a man. You need to be a woman made in God's image. You need to be faithful wherever God's called you to be. Everybody's got to come home to the Father by knowing the Father. And then getting busy right where you are. That's why we're doing this conference, Prodigal America. But it's not like either or. It's both and. That's right. It's all of the above.
I want an invite. We've got to.
You're invited.
Granted. Bless you, son.
Thank you. Well, look, and we've got problems that we need to deal with, culturally and physically with young men. Young men's testosterone is down in the range that an 85-year-old born in World War II. So what we've got going on there is environmental issues and concerns, toxins, screen time, the feminization of our culture. Like I talked to young men coming into my jiu-jitsu school, give me 1 year, I'll give you a superpower, and it will change your life. And we need men to, learn to fight. We need them to get healthy physically, diets, all that stuff, get off of the couches, start doing hard things, create hormesis in your body, which is positive stress that will drive up testosterone, and become men again.
The core government is self-government.
That's right.
The foundational government for all governments is self-government.
Right.
And if you do not govern yourself well, then you're not going to be able to govern a family well. You're not going to be able to govern a church well. You're not going to be able to govern in the public square well. And so why fundamentally the reason why we have such a squish, such a chaotic and collapsing culture is because we do not have men who govern themselves well. And you cannot have self-government without self-control, and you can't have self-control without the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we did move here to find husbands for my daughters. Right,
For your
I've got
wives?
3 girls.
For your
Yeah.
You're Mormon.
Listen, I'm busy, man. I'm busy.
You're fitting well in there,
Yeah.
Southern Idaho.
Southeast Idaho.
Because there's some manly dudes here.
No, that's
the girls are optimistic.
No, you're thinking like a faithful father. I mean, how many generations have we had of Christian fathers?
Yeah.
Who thought to themselves, I just got to raise my daughters, and then they graduate high school, and good luck. And I guess I got to pay for the wedding.
Yeah.
And like that's as far as they thought.
No, it's a shame.
They were not thinking in terms of an old friend one time preached a sermon, a phenomenal parenting sermon, and the line that has always stuck with me is he said, "Parents, you get your report card when your grandkids are grown and walking with the Lord."
I love that Tucker asked Doug, asked Pastor Doug that question. That was so beautiful, and I love that he was able to articulate and express that. It was great.
But it's absolutely true. It's like, so that's what we need to all be aiming for: our grandkids grown, walking with God. But that means you've got to be thinking that generational plan.
Let me tell you a quick Donald Trump story along those lines.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump. So I got to meet him. I insured one of his hotels, and I got to meet him just coincidentally long before he was ever running for anything, right? And he two things that were remarkable. When he walked into the room, there was a charisma that I think I've only felt twice, and that was Bill Clinton, believe it or not, and him. Okay, where it was kind of a magical, there was a vortex that came into that room, with him. And his employees loved him. His employees appreciated him. The way he treated them was remarkable. And his driver, who was the general manager of that hotel, became the general manager of that hotel. And he was competent. And he told me, the first day I worked for Mr. Trump, he told me if I pay attention, I won't be the driver for long. And he was great. He was a good dude.
Wow.
And then his kids, for all the criticism that they get, are pretty well put together, and they love their dad.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot, because there are some very famous guys that we can probably all point to, even within the Christian community, whose children despise them.
Yep.
And so, those are a couple of things that I always keep in mind when people are like, that guy, and they hate on him and all that stuff. And of course, he's incredibly flawed, as we all are, and, some people to more of a degree. But to quote,
stop looking at me.
Sorry. Discernment is one of my gifts. Discernment is one of my gifts. But at the end of the day, and to quote Rob McCoy always says, unless Jesus Christ is running, we are always voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, fair enough.
What's the website, Bryce, that you have for the ministry you're working with?
Well, for my
whatever you do,
all of them.
Yeah. So it's just
you're Renaissance man.
Yeah, just BryceEddy.com. You can find me.
EDDY.
That's right.
Bryce
Thank
Eddy.
you, sir. The Bryce Eddy Show, Super Bryce Eddy on Instagram, Bryce Eddy 1 on Twitter.
Okay.
And your podcast is about what?
So I just talk. It's a conversational podcast, long form. I sit down and talk with people that I find interesting. I get a lot of great guests. I had James O'Keefe on a couple of days ago. John MacArthur came out and talked about PTSD on a clip that got pushed out there.
I've seen that one, yeah.
And I did an episode with John Lovell, Warrior Poet Society, that day, just addressing it.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Lieutenant Colonel Tommy Waller, who got his team got blown up by an IED, and so we talked about it. Awesome.
We got it. You're bigger than us. We get it. We get it.
No.
We got it. You're important. I got it.
I just am privileged to know people, and
awesome.
they like me enough to come on.
That's awesome.
AJ,
well, thank you for being here.
How
Man.
can people follow you?
Instagram, AJ Hurley, Twitter, AJ Hurley Life. I work for the White Rose Resistance. You can go to the whiterose.life, the ministry of Seth Gruber. We're going to take back the church, baby, for the kingdom of God and for the good of unborn children.
Make sure you all sign up at prodigalamerica.com. We'd love to see you in Fort Worth, Texas, Reformation Day this fall.
I thought you were going to say something, so good. I like the fact that Gabe's
There was
quiet.
so much conversation
Gentlemen,
happening here.
thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This was a blast.
A pleasure.
Yeah.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.